Yes, you're going to have people turn their backs, but it's time for us to keep it real. Just keep talking that real, bro. Do what you do. I know what you do, so keep doing that. Talk the real.
The HBI lads will see you now. See you now. See you now.
I don't want to cause no problems. I just want to live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense.
And we are back. Episode 7, HBI podcast, health, business, and in between. My name is Dr. Nathan Bridger. I am a chiropractor. And with me, as always, the chocolate assassin himself, my therapist extraordinaire, Mr. Mina Garas. How are we?
I'm good. How are you, boss?
Very good, very good. I hope I actually say your name right, mate. You'd correct me if it didn't, I would hope. And of course,
That's all right.
the Dumbledore's assistant, the man with the world's worst beard and soon to come off, physiotherapist out of Jungle and Brophies in areas that I'm not going to remember. Paran, where's Jungle, man?
Jungle is in Paran, Brophies is in Windsor. They're 500 metres from each other.
I wasn't far off. But Mr. Ben Humphreys from Humphreys Health, how are we, brother?
I'm going good. Thanks for having me on, boys.
He's good. His internet's a bit laggy, but we're going to let it slide because he got a sweet new mic and he sounds sensual.
Thank you.
Topic of the
upgrade.
day, something that we hope we're all good at, communication. Obviously, this is a key thing when it comes to creating any kind of therapeutic relationship, or more importantly, just a key thing to being good at life. So let's talk, where do we want to start? Who wants to kick us off? I feel like Benny wants to kick us off because his mouth's already half open. What do you want to start it off, mate?
Tell us, Ben. Communicate with us.
I was literally just running a podcast before with Jack and Kyle. You guys know Kyle, trainer, and Jack Boone. And a big part of the conversation was communication. And they talked a lot about, obviously you do what you do, and obviously you get the results that you get. Like, obviously there's a big part of communication in there. So basically, when don't we communicate with people in our lives, whether that be through verbally, non-verbally, whether it be to your client or to your partner or to your mum and dad, and there's communication everywhere around us. And I believe that if you can master communication, you can be so successful, because whatever idea you have in your head will be the idea that other people have in their head if you communicate it as effectively as you want it and as you intend it to be.
Nice. Mina, jumping in. What do you got?
I agree. For me, communication comes in a few different ways. Yeah. So it's obviously communication from the client, communication from the therapist to client, and obviously the communication that you see in someone's body language. So as therapists, these are the 3 pillars that we kind of really need to pick up on, because there's a lot of untold truths. When a client presents with an issue, a lot of the time they can't even communicate it themselves. So trying to diagnose an issue, or trying to understand exactly what someone's going through, and then relating that back from anatomy terms, it's jargon, and then into layman's terms where they can understand it, feel better. So these are really pivotal points. And as Benny's saying, communication is vital, especially whether you're communicating through social media, you're communicating to different age groups, or just communication in general. Once you nail it, your point gets across perfectly.
Right.
Nice. Let me open you with my favorite quote when it comes to communication. This is my big thing. You ready for this?
Go.
Yes.
The greatest mistake in good communication is assuming that it's happened.
Yes.
And this is the number one I see when it comes, like anything, but particularly in our realm as health practitioners. Like many off air before we started, you were literally telling us a story, and we'll get you to retell that one again. But this is a classic case of the reason that someone hasn't gotten a result is because, this therapist has probably thought that they have communicated perfectly to this person what they need to do, and then assumed that person heard that and went and did it. Whereas the absolute opposite. So although this person knew that in this case, it was exercise, it's actually, tell the story for us, man. That's probably easier.
So I had a client come in yesterday. Look, standard story. I've been to this therapist, been to that therapist. I spent $1,500. And for me, I try and understand what that pattern looked like, so I can have a pretty good understanding. Does it come from the therapist perspective? Did it come from the actual client? So I asked him, I'm like, okay, tell me exactly what the physio took you through. He told me everything sounded actually on point. So I'm like, okay, well, you're wrong. Everything that your therapist has told you to do is actually correct. So did you actually do them? Like, which has been the exercises. And he goes, no. I go, so you went and spent $1,500 and you didn't do anything that the therapist asked you to do. He's like, no. And I said, why? And he goes, because he didn't feel confident when he was explaining. He literally just handed me a piece of paper, assumed that I knew what to do. And really, he goes, man, I'm a builder. I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All I know is I'm in pain, right? I didn't understand how I had to do them. I've never even been in a gym because I don't even know what I'm doing, right? He goes, so I did the exercise once or twice, and he never really kind of asked me about it. So there's a double-ended communication there. So firstly, he didn't do it because he didn't see the value or the confidence. And I pretty much took that exercise sheet and ran him through it. And then his understanding just expanded phenomenally, right? And the chances of him actually getting better is a lot higher. So it doesn't mean that the therapist is crap at all. But like Nate said, don't kind of assume. Just double check that they understand what you're delivering to them, because that physio was actually spot on.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword there, where there's two failures of communication. The patient has failed to communicate where they're at with their expectations, but more importantly, the practitioner has failed to check in. And so you can't know if it's like you can't know if you don't check, like assess. You can't know if you don't ask. And
that's right.
You know, I think we've all, you know, there's all been a moment in our career where someone like you thought was going real well and everything, and then they've just pulled the pin, and you're like, oh, what's going on? And they're like, oh, I'm not better. And that's like, I had one of those early on in my career, and I thought I had a great relationship with this person. I thought everything was going well. They communicated like everything was doing well. And then when they shifted on, I realized I just missed something. Like I just failed to double check, you know, so probably not dissimilar to that one. I forgot to check in how their exercises were going. Whereas now that's a standard part of my procedure at certain stages. I'm like, where are we at? Are we doing, is it going well? Do we need to change it? Or do you have any questions? Or do you like, I mean, I've now got a program that sends videos, so I can be like, right, I want you to have these. I've got a visual, I've got a written, go through it, and then let's sit down together. If there's any questions, let's run that through. So that way you're hitting all those, you know, you talked earlier, Ben, about kinesthetic learners, visual learners, audio learners, these kind of things.
Yeah.
This comes to us as well. You know, we have to be able to hit those things and try and figure out where our patients are at.
That's right. It's got to be, it's 2 points of communication. You got the sender, which is the person obviously delivering the communication. Then you got the receiver, the person receiving the communication. Now, if you're thinking, you know, apple in your head and Mina's thinking orange, and you're assuming that he's thinking apple as well, then fuck, he's thinking of the complete opposite thing. And then you've assumed that he knows what you're talking about. You need to confirm with your clients, right? Do you understand? Everyone's going to say yes. Some people will say no, because obviously people think they can feel dumb by saying no. But in our like industry, go, right, well, let's just double check you know what you're talking about. Let's go upstairs, or let's go to the gym, and let's actually just go through the strength and conditioning and the exercise and make sure you know what I'm talking about. You go watch. There's a few faults in their technique or whatever it may be. You go, well, all right, here's the issue. Like I said this, and it was my fault. I didn't check, and I should have checked the technique, because this is why you're not getting the results you're getting, because you're not doing it the way I intended you to do it. So let's make sure you are doing it correctly. That way you can get the results ASAP, and you're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah, 100%. And a really quick tool that I like highly recommend to any like therapists out there is ask them to explain it back to you. So I don't have a gym facility available to me in my practice at this stage, unfortunately. I've got some basic movement space, and I can go through a lot of basic stuff. But if I give exercises, one of the things, if I'm explaining and I'm demonstrating, I'm like, all right, cool. Can you explain it back to me, and can you just quickly demonstrate it again? Because that way, if they've just given you sort of lip service and be like, oh yeah, cool, I can do that, you're going to pick it up straight away. And worst case scenario, it just doubles that reinforcement in there.
That's right. Show me that you know.
Yeah.
So there's a few communications courses that I've done. And a lot of time it's tell me what you know, show me what you know, tell me again what you know. Right. So it's that kind of, you know, re-explain to make sure that both parties understand exactly what you're talking about. And again, you might know the exercise, but you might not know how. Right. And a lot of the time, that's why a lot of us have PTs, because, you know, we need the technique perfected.
And a lot of us know the exercise, but within every exercise, there's subtlety and there's a lot of variation. And like the variation I'm intending for them to do in order to get the result. In my mind, maybe this is what we call it. In their mind, it might be something completely different.
Yeah,
So,
there's so many different names and so many different exercises.
And it can just be like for things like I was talking about a face pull with a client the other day. Face pull is a relatively simple movement, but people are like, oh, where do I put the cable? Do I want it up, lower, middle? Do I want it? Am I just pulling across the face? What am I doing with the rest of the body? You know, am I then going into external rotations? And so it depends. As I said to them, it depends. In their goal, we're trying to get more rhomboid, posterior, and trap. So I need you to come from lower up to bring the trap in. If I just wanted rear delt, I'd bring straight out. You know, if I wanted more lower lat, I'd bring from up down. But the subtleties are important, especially if you're already especially for you, Ben, and you're already working generally with a very athletic and gym going population. Whereas if you've got someone that's never stepped foot in a gym, doing the face pull anyway is going to be good. Just moving is going to be good.
That's what I did. I took he still had the report in his phone from a year ago. So I'm like, show me the exercises, and I made him do it, right? And I showed him, fix that there. He goes, I can actually feel that. Okay. That's another form of communication. Telling someone doesn't mean I understand what it feels like. So that was quite a productive session.
Yeah, very good. Like a lot of the time, like I forget, and a lot of us would forget, like obviously our manual therapy skills are what people come for, but like, well, to get the best result possible, the client needs to know exactly how it feels on the body. So manual probably took him in, said, all right, here's a muscle here, you grab onto the muscle. So dude, all right, this is a muscle you should be working, and this is how I feel it contract, and I can tell you how I feel it contract, but you should feel something like this at this part of the movement. And therefore he's like, well, now you've gone like what Nate said, like tactile, you've put hands on, you've very visual, you've demonstrated it, like you've ticked a lot of boxes there rather than just verbally saying, here's this, do that.
Yeah. And one of the other best things you can do, especially these days, make them film it. Because then you know if they have to have at least done it once if they've filmed it and shown you. So like I set goals for people, but I'm going to pull the devil's advocate card here now, because this came off, I think, a post you put up the other week or two ago, this idea about communication. And one of our my chiropractic colleagues over in New Zealand, good lad over there, he put up a thing being like, the chiropractors. He was putting up a thing saying, there is a responsibility still, though, on that person to do the work. And, and of course, we have to, and like I think you've already instilled this idea with that case study before. We still have to communicate confidently and explain the benefit to the person, right? You've got to get that buy-in from the person. But I mean, I think we've probably dealt with it, and Ben, I think you have a semi-unique situation where, like, I saw your job ad. Most of the crew you deal with are athletic population at a very particular age that are looking to get more performance. So you're going to deal with a lot more crew that, like, if you say something, they're going to do it. Whereas, whereas I don't know. I mean, it's like I still get a lot of crew that are outside of that one. So one of the first things is like, so sweet, we're going to do this work. We're going to get you sorted, and then we're going to put you on a rehab plan to make sure it stays sorted. Like the manual therapy is what gives your body the access to then perform better. And they're like, no, I don't want to do that. And I was like, well, we can't, like, if we want long-term results, which is, we want to get you out of pain and keep you out of pain, we have to do that. Like I can't lie to you here. And they're like, well, I'm not going to do it. And there's that line where you're like, that always appeals to me, where you're like, all right, that's no problem. Is your goal then, do you like go, well, there's no point in me looking after you if you're not going to do the work? Or do you have to really set the frame, in your opinion, where you're like, listen, I'll do as much work as I can, but if you won't do the work yourself, it's just going to be a constant cycle of me making you better, you going down, you going better, you going down.
That's right.
Where do you play with that, mate?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, you got to match. Obviously, the reason they're in to see, most times, person's in pain, right? So obviously, most of their unspoken goal is to, for them to get out of pain. So, and that's why I delve into my subjective assessment. I'll always go through the goal of the person. I'm like, right, you're obviously here to fix a problem, because that's why everyone comes in, right? Yeah. But let's delve into that a little bit more and say, well, what is this pain or injury stopping you from doing?
Yeah.
Well, it's stopping me from doing running, for example. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, how many times are you running at the moment? Because I'll delve into their training as well and
Yeah.
say, well, I'm
But
currently
again,
not running at all.
Not to cut you off, Ben. I'm gonna hit you even harder here. I'm talking about someone that's not active. So if their goal, they can't have a goal of running if they're an active person. So like, you know what I mean? Like
someone who's never been inside a gym.
Yeah. So it's never been in a gym, doesn't want to be
Mm.
active, just wants you to like perform some kind of exorcism and all the pain goes away. Like where do you what are your options?
That's what I'm getting into. That was the example.
Yeah, all right.
Was like
Get in, go on.
The example can be whatever, but it's like delving into the goal, right? So let's
100%.
say the goal is to be out of pain. It's like, well, why do you want to be out of pain? Let's say I just want to be able to check my blind spot in my car because it's dangerous. I got kids in my car and I can't afford to fucking crash. So go, well, there we go. There's your actual goal of continuing treatment and continuing your rehab. Now we can get you there slowly with manual therapy, or you can then go home and do this additional rehab to get you to your result quicker. So it's about delving into the why they have their goal and to find out specifically why they have it. That way they'll be like, well, I don't want to crash my car and kill my kids, so I'm going to go do my rehab.
Let me double back at you. Sorry, Mina, I want you in here as well. But can you get the goal long term with manual therapy alone? Thoughts?
It varies like on the severity, I think, of the problem, but most cases, no.
I would say no, and the reason is because, and I explain this to a lot of clients, and Benny, again, going off Benny's video about expectation and value, I tell them massage does not fix the problem, right? Massage or manual therapy, whatever it is, gives you the ability to loosen up certain areas, joints, muscles, tendons. You have a 2 to 3 day window to start moving and rehabilitating that area. If you don't, muscles are very smart, tendons are very smart. They're going to reverse back to what they know unless you teach them something different. So you can either empty your pockets here and keep coming back because it feels good, or you can do the extra part at home, and that's going to help you get better. The bigger the base, the bigger the pyramid. Like we can't change body parts, but we can strengthen them. So when you set that expectation around the why, the what, and the how,
that's right.
I've done 100%. My bit. I've done my bit to educate you and tell you I've got your interest at heart as well as your pocket. But if you don't do it, I'm only with you for an hour every month or so.
Yeah.
There's only so much I can do. The rest is in your hands.
That's a perfect explanation. Like, I think that's the thing. I think of what I do initially is a gateway to, we'll say, a better life, a better performance, better feeling, better movement. But you have to do the other side to keep it, because we adapt to what we do regularly. That's why 3/4 of the population look like chairs now, because they sit in them all day, right? If you you have to undo the do. Like, if you're going to spend a bunch of time doing, you've got to be doing a bunch of time undoing, right?
That's right.
But I think, and the way I look at the continuum is like manual therapy initially is that gateway in, exercise is what continues it, and then using like manual therapy in a maintenance style manner is what is going to then give you extra performance at the end. And that's the way I feel about it. But it's a changing goal.
That's right.
And but it's still like, I mean, expectation. Sometimes I think we've probably all been there where you meet a client or a patient and you're just like, this is not going to work. Like, between us, it's not going to work. And I go back to a study I was reading a couple of months back, and it was a study done for chiropractic clinics, but it was like patient versus practitioner expectations with care. So, they were interviewed practitioners, what they expected the person to be doing, and then they interviewed the patients, what they expect to be doing. It's only a small study, but there's one quote that stuck with me ever since I read it. And I can't exactly remember the guy, but I think it was a older male, like 60s, gone to see his chiropractor, and obviously they've gone, this is what we're going to do, and then I'm going to need you to do this exercise work in order to make sure it's good. And I'm paraphrasing the quote, but the quote's basically like, I'm paying you to fix me, not fucking teach me how to fix myself. And that's some of the stuff we come up against, right? Like, going back to this, is that people, like, we've never been in a bigger generation of stone teenagers buying shiny things, right? We just want the quick fix. We want, the 2-minute abs and all this stuff, and people coming in and that
gratification. Yeah.
Exactly. And listen, I think manual therapy is a way to give a bit of instant gratification in order to get buy-in for the long term.
That's right. Yeah.
But there's definitely those times I've sat across from someone and I've just been like, you probably need to go elsewhere. It's just, and not because I don't want to, not even that. It's not that I don't want to help them, because I absolutely want to help everyone, but you also you
can't help people that can't help themselves.
Exactly. And you listen,
complex. Yeah, that's right. And that's sorry to cut you off, but
no, go.
The old saying, if you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Now, your communication is trying to get that thing to bloody drink the water. Yeah. Now, if you've exhausted all of your options and all of your knowledge on man, I can't say this any other way. I've tried to be the best teacher I can, and I still can't. And then that's when you go, right, well, as Nate said, you're probably not the client for me. I'm not the practitioner for you, but go see my mate, who I think is would be able to gel a little better with you, because you'll be getting a better result with this person.
Yeah. Exactly. It's provide an option. Yeah, provide an option. If I have someone who's got a base injury that they're just looking for a quick fix and there's no thing. My front desk staff know now, because normally I would say, all right, I'm going to see you, then I'm going to book you in for a report. We're going to run through some options in order to get the best result. If I come to my staff and I'm like, oh, Steve's just going to call us when he's ready, they know that we're not wasting time here. It's one of those ones where you're like, I'm going to give you in that consult, you're going to get everything I can give you to help you. Yeah. But if you're not looking for that help, then there's no point. We might as well just be like, I've done my part. You got what you came for. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And that happens very rarely, because I think we're all quite good communicators, and obviously people are there for a reason, unless,
especially now, because we've all got reputations, and I would say good ones, if I can have a humble brag. But you know what I mean? People are actively seeking us out, and they're coming knowing what they're getting.
That's right.
So it makes life a lot easier. I think a lot more of this is when you first start somewhere, and when you first open your doors, it's sort of like everybody's welcome.
That's right.
And so over that time, it self-selects across. You're just like, you're like, what you doing? What's going on? You want to come get adjusted? All right, we're doing it. Yeah, let's go. And that's part of opening any business. Sometimes it's a bit of just throw everything out and see what sticks. And then over the time, you develop your following
your passion,
your people
and your interest. That's right.
Yeah. And I always say to clients, you're not just paying for treatment, right? You're paying for education. When I talk to someone, when I have an initial consult, I spend a good 15 minutes explaining and making sure and getting them to repeat back to me that they understand what the issue is, because the better informed you are as an individual, the higher the chance you're going to get better, because you actually understand the what, the why, and the how. Okay. And if this goal is actually that important to you, you'll do what you need to do that's necessary to get you fixed. Right. So for me, I sit literally throughout the whole session, even while I'm treating. Okay, when I press through this, you're going to feel this trigger point referral there. When I press through that, you're going to feel it. And this is why you're pressing that. So when they leave, they get off the table, not only knowledge, but they understand why I did what I did. And a lot of the time, people leave treatments not knowing what happened. So a lot of people, they come from other therapists, not to say other therapists doing anything wrong, but it's making sure that they leave educated, because you don't know who's going to see you next. If at least you've told, okay, I've had this issue, my physio or my chiro has done X, Y, Z to me. As a therapist, how much more informed are you when they're informed?
Yeah, that's right.
100%, man.
So it makes our job a lot easier. So I always say to people, I don't care if you don't see me again, but at least if you see the next person, you're going to actually be able to help them fix you up, help them understand exactly what you're going through, and tell them specifically what's been treated, instead of another therapist starting all over again.
Yeah.
And doubling down on that, I don't think people even pay for treatment. I think they pay for the expertise. When someone comes through my door, you're paying for the better part of,
Correct. You pay for the years of treatment.
12, 15 years of learning and perfecting a craft that I spent. Yeah. And that's what 99% of it is the valuation is the most valuable thing you get when you first walk through that door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like you can't actually put a price on it, how valuable that could be for that person.
Yeah, and I saw a quote online. I think it said, you're not paying for 60 minutes of treatment. You're paying for the length of time we've spent to perfect this treatment. Yeah,
that's right.
So
it's so hard because it's a very subjective thing and a very qualitative thing, like time and effort and like the value you provide. It's not only subjective from your perspective, it's very subjective from the client. And at the end of the day, and that can be the communication breakdown, is like if they come in with one expectation and they leave, not having that expectation fulfilled, obviously, depending on what it is, like the expectation hasn't been set from your perspective. All right, well, you've had this problem for 4 years. It ain't going to go away in 2 sessions, man. I'm just sorry to tell you, because you've had 4 years worth of adaptation and deconditioning, and you've had 4 years of pain. Like it just doesn't work like that. So that comes down to it's our responsibility then to make sure that, all right, well, chances are it will take 6 weeks of treatment, we'll take 3 months of rehab, and then you'll be on your way. It's just not that instant.
That's bang on. It's about framing what's going to happen. So when people come in for my report, I'll have people, they've got chronic issues, I may say it's probably going to take us 12 months to get this sorted. Now, let me break that 12 months down for you so you understand what's going on. Because otherwise they're sitting there, they're like, shit, 12 months. I was like, all right. So what we need to do first up is actually get things moving properly. This is where we're going to really focus on this is the acute stuff. You're in pain. We want to get you feeling good. But alongside that, we're going to have to change function, change structure, and that's going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't go to the gym for 6 weeks and suddenly you're a model here. Like, we have to do the work and go through to get you stronger, get you moving better. And that's that long period of time.
Yeah.
And when people get that, they get it.
Yeah. Not to mention then we talk about the healing, variables, like this is from my perspective as a manual therapist, as a chiro, my physio. Now, if you've got some fucked up hormones and you're old and there's no blood going to the area, dude, this thing's going to take even longer to heal. So there's so many variables at play.
You don't sleep, you got a stressful life, and so you got to set that frame, because otherwise people, they come back a week later and they're like, I'm not any better. And you're like, yep, that's true. And this comes back to communication again. You have to get people to really almost reaffirm what you've told them.
That's right.
Because otherwise, they come back a week later, they're like, I'm still not better. And you're like, you remember how we sat down and we went through everything and we talked about how it was going to take X amount of time? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, cool. And they're like, but I'm not better. And you're like, yes, that is correct. And unfortunately, that is the fact. I said to him, and if I had the ability, I would to reach into someone's body and just pull that pain away. Of course I would do it. If all it took to fix each person was to one visit and I could just magically make things go.
You'd be Jesus.
Man, it'd be all happening. I got the beard ready. But and one of my patients is like, yeah, but she's like, it wouldn't be really good for business. I was like, no, it'd be great for business. I'd be booked out. I'd just be 10 grand a session.
That's right.
I'd be killing it. I wouldn't have any issue with that at all, but it would cost a lot more to see me.
Yeah.
That's right. I love how
and I think another point of expectation. Go, Benny. Go.
I was just saying, I love how it's just, again, it's such a polar perspective. It's that's terrible for business. Actually, if I fix them really fast, dude, they're going to tell everyone about me. So it actually, on the long term, it's actually much more beneficial for me to fix them ASAP rather than keep them coming
Benny,
back.
that's exactly what I tell the clients. I go, you know what my marketing strategy is? I tell them straight. They're like, what? I go, well, my goal is to fix you as fast as possible and efficiently as possible. All right. So if I get you fixed in 2 sessions, your 5 immediate friends that are around you right now are going to realize the difference. And they're going to ask you, well, what's changed? Yesterday you were depressed and today you're over the moon. Oh, well, when I saw this myophysio, chiro, osteo, and I feel great because he did X, Y, Z. And when they explain all this confidence, you did all that, explain to you, they understand, you know what to do. Bang, that's 5 people times 5.
That's right. It just compounds.
You've got instant referral, right? I think a big point of difference as well is getting to understand, I guess, personal and professional lifestyle, and a lot of time there's a lot of stress involved in people's lives. So the more you can kind of understand and get to know the person, the more informed you are in terms of how you can battle certain things. Like, I had a lady call me this morning, a good friend and client of mine, and she apparently had no sleep all night. She was freaking out because her therapist said to her, "Oh yeah, sometimes cupping can cause blood clot."
Fucking hell. Does that even
If
happen?
I show you the message, I'll show you the message. And she called me at 6:45 this morning, messaged me like a long ass message. But man, this is communication, right?
Yeah.
And she was absolutely petrified. Like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm going to get blood clots now. I'm feeling something like really bad paranoia.
A poor thing, yeah.
Oh, man.
I said to her, look,
how often does this happen, man? Like, in all of our things, like professionals just saying something flippantly that's not based in any kind of logic.
It's not relevant. Don't talk about it.
I had a patient recently tell me that their doctor told me I was going to make them a paraplegic. And I was just like,
dude, I'll stop you from being paraplegic.
No, I was like, and then told me, like, demanded that she saw an orthopedic surgeon for her mildly degenerated neck. And the surgeon was like, I don't even know why you're here seeing me. That's totally normal. You're like 78. Like, your doctor's an idiot, essentially. Like, but like, it's not, and I'm not harping on GPs here, though it happens a lot.
No.
It's hard for them because they're like such generalists. It's hard, they've got a very wide ocean, but it's not very deep a lot of the time. It happens to everyone. Like, Ben, me and you both shared something the other day from Clinical Athlete, including the worst advice that ever given. It was just like, don't press overhead because it'll tear your rotator cuff. Like, oh, you've had a disc injury, you can never lift again. Like, and this is stuff like, we laugh, but people take that on, man. They go home, they build the altar to the, the great and all powerful, like, I shall not lift again. And they believe it. Like, and we laugh. But
the
people, man,
to deadlift.
Come in, she came in, she was freaked out. Like, she was worried. And I was like,
if you heard the tone on this client this morning,
oh man,
it's like someone had died. I promise you.
Yeah.
And I had to explain to her, listen, blood clot. Generally, you have to have a history of, your blood clot. Your blood pressure levels. There's a lot of variables. You're not going to get it from massage. You can get it if you have a history of that.
And even then, it's not that it's been caused by it; it's being aggravated. Dude. And even in the case, like, you probably have treated thousands of people that have those risk factors.
And it's never happened.
It never happened. It's just
the very like, that's
she's
why
literally like, you don't understand how much I appreciate this.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Brilliant. Like, she was really like on the border of crying. Like,
that's why you got to that's fantastic. That's why you got to contextualize your communication to the person sitting in front of you or the audience that you're talking to. It's got to be relevant, and it's got to be true. Like, it's not just like opinion driven. It's like, well, this is pretty factual that this information is known, and it's got to be our responsibility as well to help, like, debunk a lot of people's myths and opinions about certain things. So obviously you would have spent a little bit of time, again, that's the key, is in education, saying, look, the chances of this happening are so minuscule that like it would happen in 1 in a million or whatever it may be. Like, it's sure it can happen, but like, look, this is not what you're going through.
This is informed consent. This is why we tell people, there is a theoretical risk of X amount in this. And like, and then people, but the funny thing is, like, so you like, one of the ones we have to do is the idea that you could have a stroke from a cervical manipulation. Now, research almost tells us that it physically like can't happen.
Yeah.
But, and what's happening is that people are having the stroke, which one of the primary signs is neck pain and headaches, and then going to the practititioner. And most of the time where this is happening, the person's not even seen the person yet. They're in the waiting room. But they always used to get recorded as, like, I've had colleagues that literally have had to call hospitals and be like, I saw on the record you said that it was caused by what I did. And they're like, yeah, you caused it. And he's like, I never treated that person. They came to me for an evaluation and I sent them to you because I picked it up. I never did any treatment. They're like, yeah, but you caused it. You're like, what? Yeah. So we're having issues there, but we have to let people know. But then it's funny how people get real freaked out like that. So it's apparently like 1 in between 2 and 10 million, allegedly. Yet
That's so much bad PR, dude.
Yet we, like 1 to 2,000 people a year die from taking Panadol, normal Panadol that you can buy at a supermarket. And yet none of us are like, which is technically far more risky, yet no one's like, whoa, watch out with that Panadol, man. Like that stuff kill you. Like you got more chance of dying getting in your car, but no one's like banning cars.
What about walking out on the road, dude? As soon as you get in your car, there's a high chance of you dying. But we all thought like that.
Anyway, one of the
Yeah.
things I'd love to like sort of dial into before we finish up today is like, I think you talked about there, they, these either preconceived ideas or these where you have to dispel myths. And this was something I saw the other day. And like a lot of people have a bad understanding of basic psychology. And we get taught a bit of it at uni, at least we did in my course, but still very basic. And I've managed to spend a lot of time outside learning a lot more of this.
Very important.
But if someone's got an idea, one of the mistakes I think practitioners make is they make them wrong. So
that's good.
And I got like people often laugh, or I see us get criticized for saying that people have got like a bone out of place or the hips out or things like that. Now, I'm not telling anyone that because it's not a thing. But people come in, they're like, "Oh, my back's out." Now you can either like, and I've seen it like that. You want to be like, "Listen, that's not a thing that happens. You're wrong." But if you do that, that person's out. Like they're not getting any better. They're going to go to someone who's going to like, "Yeah, your back's out."
Let's put it back in. And rejected them.
And the most pivotal example I saw recently. So we went to the local races down here, the Geelong Cup. It's a big deal down in our regional centre. Pull up. It's 10 a.m. We're getting there for the first race, and there is about 100 protesters protesting the races.
Yeah, horse racing kills.
Yeah, exactly. Now, again, they very well could be right. Like, it's one of those things. There's definitely, from what I understand, some issues within horse racing, and I 100% get it. Yeah. But what they're doing is standing out in front of a place where people are going with friends to have a good time and abusing those people for doing that. So instead of those people being open to the idea of learning more and possibly changing their mind, we are now looking for a reason that those people are wrong. So when you make someone wrong, they instantly search for reasons why you're wrong. And so a good mentor of mine, he actually runs communication courses. I don't know if it's still just chiro only or health practitioner, Martin Harvey. I remember he gave us these 2 strategies, which I think are the most easy and pivotal things that anybody can use. You can use it in any situation. And it's simply like, it's called a yes and an ask for permission. So someone will be like, "Oh, my hip's out." And so first thing is the yes. So you validate it, right? So you're like, "Yeah, you're in pain. What's going on?"
That's shit, dude.
And then you're like, "And," so it's the switch. You've just opened the switch. And then the permission. Do you mind if I provide another idea on that? And if they say yes, well, then you've just stacked yeses. They've agreed. And even if you say something they don't want to agree with, because they've previously agreed.
Giving you permission.
Psychology-wise, we want to now
open up the gateway.
Yeah. And so it's that permission. Like I've had people, someone the other week, they're like, "Listen, I just don't think I'm getting any better." And I was like, "All right, do you mind if I, am direct with you on this?"
Just delve into that.
Yeah, please. All right. And I was like, "All right." So when you came in, you were limping. You're not limping anymore. And they're like, "Yeah, true." I was like, "You couldn't run." They're like, "Yeah, cool." I was like, "And you've told me again, you haven't been doing the exercises." Now we took time the other week. We went out and we went through them again because you said you were uncertain. You promised me you were going to do them because I told you, like, in order to get ahead of this, we need to do them. But you've come to me today and said you're not doing them. So are we surprised that things haven't improved in this section? Like, you've definitely improved, but are we surprised that this hasn't improved? And they were like,
as much as you'd like it to.
Yeah. And so it's like, all right, so what we're going to do is instead of doing hands-on today, I'm going to go out back with you and we're just going to work on your exercises. And we're all going to do this week and then we'll check in. But if I'd said, no, it's just because you're not doing your exercises.
Yeah, you dickhead.
But instantly they were like, well, fuck you, I'm going to go elsewhere.
They've already blocked you in their mind.
Yeah. Right. And it's the most easy tools. It's literally just saying, can I be direct? Or do you mind if I give you an alternative? And yeah, you're right. But how about this?
That's the conflict.
It's like the art of 5 whys.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Well, you got to.
Why? Why?
Yeah.
You always get the answer by fifth why.
The acknowledgement is so important. Like when someone comes in and spills their guts and says how much that sore shoulder is fucking their life, it's just like, rather than keep questioning further and further, you say, man, that actually really sucks. So that must be really shit for you, dude. It's empathy. It's sympathy, empathy. It's like, all right, he understands me straight away. All right, I'm going to keep listening and so important, dude. That's a really good point to raise.
And as practitioners, if you can't be empathetic, like, there's no point. And like, I'm going to quickly define it for people because people often get very sympathetic, but there's a big difference here. And sympathy is where you're taking it on. Empathy is, providing a similar understanding, but you're not taking it on. And as practitioners, I see people get burnt out from taking it on all day, and it's not our role. You're meant to, like, you're there to acknowledge, and you don't always have to. People just think, I know what you mean. No. You don't need to do any of that. That must be really hard for you.
Yeah, that's good.
That's all you need.
Communication in check. Yeah, it's the acknowledgement, and it's come down to purely the acknowledgement, straight up, and then how you handle it. So when it's a conflicting thing, like you were just saying, that's a very good confliction resolution strategy is to acknowledge, like, I get you're frustrated, dude. Like, that's shit. But let's delve into why this is happening, because I still believe that you are still making functional gains and your pain's going away. It's obviously you just don't know, you're just not where you want to be right now. But let's break it down. So I provide you with a program. We've done only half of the amount of treatments that I said it was going to take to heal. It's only been X amount of time that this structure takes to heal. I say, I don't want to invalidate you and make you feel like a dickhead, but this is where we're at. And I want to just make sure that you're clear with that. And I'm happy for you to go somewhere else. But look, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm a very trustworthy person. And these are results that I get. I'm not fucking blowing smoke up your own ass trying to get the sale. I said, this is the truth.
We want the best for you, and like we want it. And if people need something else, they need something else, man. Well, boys, let's closing this in. What's your number one? If you know, then we'll go. I think you should, like, number one tip from both of you, whether you're a practitioner, for your practitioners in terms of communication with their patients, and for a patient in terms of communication with their practitioner. If you could give both groups one hot tip to get the best results, what would they be?
Go, Mina.
For me, I'll kind of go on the why, the what, the how. So when you're talking to your clients, explain to them what's happening, why is this happening, and how we're actually going to fix it, right? That way you give your client a full picture of what's going on. From the client's perspective is be honest and open. So we don't know what you don't tell us, and we're not going to assume what's going on. So the more information you provide us, like it says, have you had any surgery? State what you've had, right? Even if you don't think it's relevant.
Don't decide what you think's relevant. If the question's have you had it, just tell us if you've had it.
And just kind of one thing before we kind of finish off as well, like you mentioned before about, empathizing the situation. So something we got taught in communication, I'm sure you guys know, I'm not sure if you do or not, but there's something called the heat model, right? So the heat model is basically hear them out, empathize with their situation, apologize for how difficult that might be. Not that you're sorry, but, sorry, but it must be pretty bad what you're going through, right? And then take ownership of the issue. So we call that the heat model. Generally people are really quite fired up, people who are quite anxious, that sort of thing. So something that practitioners can use when dealing, I guess, with difficult conversations or difficult clients.
All right,
that's awesome.
Say it once more for everyone at home.
Cool. So it's called the heat model. So heat stands for hear them out. So really understand, listen to what they're saying. Don't interject. Right? Acknowledge the situation. Empathize with their situation. Apologize on their experience, and then take ownership of the issue. So HEAT.
Very good. My advice.
I'm writing that down. That's genius.
Yeah, I saw that. That was really good. My advice from clinician or practitioner to client, much the same along the lines as Mina. Like, obviously, there's that very important education piece in there, but it's what we were talking about before, the acknowledgement of their concern and of their, I guess, of their pain or the problem that they've been going through, because that will then help the conversation keep flowing in order for you to then educate them. So just like not being dismissive, but validating what they're saying. And then the client to the practitioner is, yeah, I think what Mina said is the honesty. So just like, as I said, disclosing as much as you think is relevant, and obviously with the practitioner's question, you can flesh out what they might think is not relevant, but it'd be more turning up with the expectation that they're here to get a result, and then obviously disclosing whatever information they need to get that result.
Yeah. And so just to add to that, Benny, something I'd really want from clients is if you're not sure or you're not confident about what your therapist has asked you to do, just question them. Ask them, why am I doing this? What for? How am I going to benefit? If you don't understand, don't think that we think you're dumb or you should get it, because you're not supposed to. That's what you're paying us for.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a failure on our part, you know. Like if you don't explain, we've not explained it properly.
But again, we don't know what we don't know. Yeah. So we try and explain to the best of our ability. That's why it's a two-way street. Yeah. So, you know, if Benny's explaining something to me, I'm like, Benny, I don't get it. Explain it again. Oh, I don't get it. Just because I'm a Maya and I do work with the body doesn't mean 100%. I understand what he's talking about. So have the confidence to question your therapist. Why do I have to have these plans? Should I be having a plan? Because everyone else is getting plans. I'm not getting any plans, right? Yep. So question them around any uncertainty that you have. That way we can re-clarify and make sure we're doing the best by you.
Great, very good.
And do your exercises. Trust me.
Yeah. Nice.
Very good, bro.
Very nice, man.
Big nice.
All right. So for me, like for a practitioner, I think it comes back to that framing before, like, be honest and set the expectation, but set an expectation where you believe you are, like, you're not over promising. So like, it's that classic one, like under promise and over deliver. Like if you think something's going to take 6 months, be honest about it and set a time frame where you're like, it's probably going to be looking at 5 to 8 months, but then do everything you can to get it done in 4. Like there's that kind of under promise, over deliver. Versus over promising and under delivering, which is all too common, unfortunately. And then for patients, I think it's going to come back to what both of you said, man. It's a two-way street. Like, just let us know. Like, be honest, let us know. But like, if things aren't going the way you're hoping, let us know. If we did something different on time and it was really good, let us know. You know, if you're not doing your exercises, let us know. Because if we're going to assume that you're doing them, and if you're not getting better, we're questioning what's going on. And then you come back, you're like, oh, I've just not been doing the exercise. You're like, oh, well, I'm thinking I'm having to change stuff and that, but that was working. But you haven't done the other side of it. So it's that two-way street. If we're open and honest, and we have a common goal, and the common goal is obviously getting that person better and allowing them to perform those things. You know, like you said earlier, Ben, we will have worked out those goals and what they actually mean. If those are our goals, well, let's work to get them. But at the end, like for the patient, those are your goals. They're not my goals, they're your goals. And it's my job to help you get to those goals. So the only person who misses out in the end, that if you're not getting them, is you.
That's right.
So be on your own team.
That's right.
Perfect.
That's very good.
All right. Well, boys, we better call that one a day. That is episode 7 of the HBI podcast, Health, Business, and In Between. We will be back next week for episode 8. Do we have a theme, or are we're gonna have a surprise theme this week? What are we thinking?
I got no ideas at this stage.
We can do a surprise theme. We're leading up to Christmas.
Maybe we'll even tell you on the stories this week.
For me, I think it'd be a good pathway. Yeah, I think a good pathway would probably talk a little bit about business.
All right. Well, it might be business time. As always, guys, if you liked the episode, share it with some friends, throw it up on the gram in the stories, and tag us in it, and give us a 5-star review. We'll see you all next week.
See you guys.
Bye.